Shalom from Israel, I'm Ariel Ben Abraham. This week we read Parshat Vayishlach. Literally means, and he sent. It's referring to Jacob, who sent angels. Let's read a little bit. Then Jacob sent angels ahead of him to Esau, his brother, to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. Okay. In the previous portion, we read that Jacob and his family left Padam Aram, the house of his father-in-law Laban, in order to return to his home in Israel, in Beersheba, where his father Isaac was living and waiting for him. So in his way back, he was about to meet his brother. We know already that there's a feud between the two of them because of the birthright and the blessings that we know. So Jacob is afraid to meet his brother. In other words, this big enemy, the biggest enemy that he has and always will have. Because the descendants of Jacob, Israel, the land of Israel, will be eternal opposites to Edom, to the descendants of Esau. So Edom represents the nations. All the enemies of Israel are Edom, the red ones. That's interesting because you say Esau, Seir, and Edom, three names that are complementary of each other. Edom is the second name of the other name by which Esau is known, because it was red. Edom, it's red in Hebrew. And Seir, our scriptures talk about Seir as a mountain, some kind of a hill in which he used to live. We're talking about Esau. So Seir was his home, the place where he belongs. When we're talking about the place where he belongs, we're talking about the qualities that identify him. We're talking about negative qualities. Those are Seir. It's the place, the consciousness of Esau. It's a consciousness that characterizes by the color red, meaning violence, againstness, opposition. That's basically the qualities opposite to Jacob's qualities. Exactly the opposite. Kindness, compassion, solidarity, service, peace, cooperation, integration. So we see these two worlds, so to speak, these two consciousnesses against each other. The book of Zohar, the Zohar, basically what people read about Kabbalah, is in a book called the Zohar, as we know. They have a passage referring to the relationships of these two consciousnesses, Esau and Jacob. They wisely point out that we have both. We do. Nobody can say that it's completely kind, completely compassionate, completely fair, righteous. There's something, either minimum, excuse me, either minimum that is not that right. So we all have, as humans, we all have those references. We have mentioned many times that goodness is the choice to make. And wickedness, evil, is the reference not a choice. It's a reference to choose goodness. So when we experience something negative in our consciousness, anger, depression, or some people say it's okay to be depressed, it's okay to be angry, and those kind of things. We're not talking about that kind of approach here. There's no need to be angry. There's no need to be frustrated or depressed or sad. It's not an acceptable state of consciousness. We have to overcome that. Nobody wants to live in those those states as a permanent approach to life. Nobody. Not even the people who advocate that it's okay to be depressed, it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to be sad. Yes, we have to process them. That's the okayness of being sad or being depressed or being angry. It's a temporary process that we have to process, actually. There are no places to stay there. There are no options. There are references not to be there. So it is okay as long as we are working to get out of it. That's what is okay. Not being in that negative state as a choice. Doesn't work that way. Unless, forever. Of course, anybody can make it the choice that they want. If they choose to be depressed, they choose to be angry, they choose to be upset. What can we do about that? We let them be. Now, we don't let them inflict this state on our state. We don't. So if we're people who prefer to be happy, to rejoice, to feel the expansion of goodness around us, we're not going to allow that in our lot, in our surroundings, in our reality, in our perception, in our consciousness. We won't. We don't want to tamper our consciousness with anything different than what we really are, truly are. We have to insist here that these things are pretty black and white. There's no gray here. We're talking about the Torah, we're talking about the Jewish identity, as it is in traditional Orthodox Judaism. It's either or. Either we're good or we're not. We're going to be a little bad and a lot good and that kind of thing. It doesn't work that way. And the reason is pretty obvious here. It's like we either or. We either want to be in heaven or in the hell. Not even purgatory. We don't want to be in the purgatory, we don't want to be in hell. We want to be in heaven. We want to be happy. We want to grow, to expand, to know new, different, awesome dimensions to discover in this goodness that transcends the material reality. We want that. We want to grow. We want to go up, ascend, elevate, uplift. So, in the same way that if people give us to choose between heaven and hell, and we choose heaven, same thing here, exactly the same. So we have to understand the negative states, negative situations, and something that we have to overcome. Not to stay there, not to suffer them, not to be under their misery and the disgrace of living in negative situation, in darkness. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. In their sane judgment, so we are little, we're growing, we're being loved and nurtured by our parents' love. We don't tell them we are 3, 4 years old, 5, 7, 8, 10 years old, 11, 12. Don't love me, mother, hate me. I don't want to be happy, I want to be depressed. I want to be angry, I don't want to be happy. The references, the choices that we are living are goodness. Why would we choose something different than that? It just doesn't make sense. So let's take our references from when we were born up until we start talking. 3, 4 years. Try to remember those times. We needed to be taken care of, to be loved, protected, appreciated. So, encouraged, enhanced. Just like we're supposed to keep that trend for the rest of our lives. Everybody, everyone. But no, at some point then education, competition, rivalries in the educational system and even within the home start making us change and start looking for these fantasies and illusions out of egos, beliefs and feelings of lack. It's like you don't have this, you have to get it. You have to be like this, you should be like this, and those kind of things. And then we put aside love's ways and attributes and embrace ego's fantasies and illusions and their negative outcome, for which we later regret at some point. Some people live their whole lives like that and die like that. Some people, at some point in their lives, stop and say, this is not who I am, or this is not what I want to be. Then they start choosing love for their own sake. It's like I choose more of who I am and who I want to be, for my own goodness and for other people's goodness. In other words, our well-being is consonant with the well-being of others. So we are being happy not at the expense or detriment of other people, but for the goodness of everyone around us. This makes sense though. It's like having things that other people don't have and can't enjoy. For example, we mentioned about the example of the boat, big boat, the yacht. People enjoy it with others. It's like, why should I have a boat all for myself? Then we buy people, and everybody's happy, everybody's enjoying what we have as a consequence of what we are and what we do. So it makes sense then. So we learn that sharing the goodness is the purpose of goodness, to be shared. It's not, okay, the goodness is for me, I'm going to keep it for myself, don't touch me, don't take it away from me, that kind of thing. Doesn't work that way. It's like I'm good enough. In order to feel good enough, I have to share my goodness with other people. So it is goodness. It's not an ego trip that I'm planning on my own head. So, coming back to the text, the idea of these two consciousnesses is to educate, to transform, to correct, to redirect these negative tendencies in consciousness towards goodness. So this is the whole issue between these two consciousnesses fighting each other. These two nations that were fighting in the womb of Rebecca. And and the older will serve the younger. It's a commandment, it's a decree in God's plan. It's God's will. It has to be that way. But then we're here in this dimension, this material world, as we are the ones who have to do that job. See, the Torah is for us, it's not for the angels. It's for us to fulfill, to understand, to apply, to enjoy, to be satisfied and fulfilled with it. That's the whole idea. So it's like if we have a negative kind of, a negative side, a dark side, we have to bring the light to that dark side within our consciousness. So this is a pretty deep approach of the Zohar, the Kabbalah. About this is basically, they mention also that when Jacob was fighting with the angel, that fight takes place within our consciousness. And it lasts the whole night. It's like all our lives, while we are in darkness, we have to fight to make light prevail. That's Israel, the light for the nations. It's during the night. The fight didn't take place in the morning. Our old tradition says that when the angel was about to, the sunrise was coming. But the angel told him, I have to go, you have to let me go. The sun is about to rise. So there's no need for me to be here. So it's like the negative tendencies of consciousness, when this goodness, when goodness prevails, as it will be in the Messianic times, the negative tendencies are irrelevant. They disappear. They're not there anymore. So we have to understand this in this deeper way. So once the light comes, there's nothing to fight. It's light again. But while we are in darkness, we have to fight in order to prevail. Even if those negative traits hurt us, as it happened with Jacob. He was limping in one of the legs. He was hurt by the angel. But the whole point of the story is that goodness prevailed. That's the whole point, and will prevail always. But it's our job to make it prevail. We are Israel. We're the ones who have to fight the whole night amid the darkness in order to make prevail the light, the goodness. So this is very important. So Jacob charged the angel, told the angels, he sent angels to Esau because he wanted to check out how his brother was going to react. Either he was going to kill him as he suspected, Jacob, or not. So he charged them, saying, thus shall you say to my lord, to Esau, so said your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and have lingered until now. I have acquired oxen and donkeys, flocks, servants and maidservants, and I am sending to tell my Lord again to find favor in your eyes. Our sages, as we were mentioning in our commentaries in the blog, God's love. Why Jacob has to be afraid of his brother? I mean, he received the blessings of God. God blessed him. God is with him. Actually, God told him, I am with you. Why why Jacob is afraid. This is why what the Zohar comes here to explain. It's like it's part of his own consciousness that he's afraid of. So like he knows that he's blessed by God. We all know that we are blessed by God. But intimately, we know that we're not blessing ourselves. Because there are negative things, traits, qualities in our consciousness that indeed don't bless us. They actually are a curse. We suffer them. So, the idea here is to appease them. It's like, okay, I have a negative tendency in my consciousness. I like to overindulge in certain things. Then what would I do? I mean, I cannot wipe them out of my consciousness. Why would I do it? Because I have to appease them. Okay, I'm gonna take the extra piece of dessert after eating, indulging more in a particular sensual aspect of consciousness. And then after that, it's okay, then I keep going. It's like, it's appeasements to keep them quiet, to keep them down. It's like, okay, stay there, but don't influence on me too much. So then, the rest of the story, well, to summarize, not to extend a lot. Later, Jacob decided to send him lots of cattle and donkeys and camels, dozens, hundreds of them. This is a lot of food, it's a lot of cattle. So the mystic Hasidic tradition translated them cattle or camel or donkeys and sheep, goats as representations of sensual tendencies, drive that we have. So it's like the bull, it's a very strong animal. It's a drive, it's ego. Goal is stubbornness to get what we want. Sheep to convince, to follow the tendencies that we want to pursue. Camels, kind of determination and endurance to fulfill something. But in this case, they are directed, these vital forces are directed towards something that is negative in our consciousness. So instead of fighting them, we're going to feed them in order to appease them. That has consequences. So in this case, the brother accepted them. It's not necessary, you don't have to feed me, but if you want to, that's fine. And then he withdraws. But before Esau withdraws to his place, to Seir, he invites him, his brother. He says, I wait for you there. So Jacob said at the end of this portion, he said, I'm not ready yet. My children are little, I have to raise them. They are weak. It's interesting. We're talking about the future here. It's like, yes, there's going to be a point in which you and I are going to meet again. Or by then, my children are going to be strong. Then we will meet each other to see what happens. So in our commentary in the blog about this portion, we quote a verse of the prophet Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 21, which says, Saviors will ascend to the Mount of Zion, to rule over the mountain of Seir. And the kingdom will be the Lord's. So this is a prophecy based on this encounter. This encounter was destined to take place between the two brothers, between these two consciousnesses. But the saviors of the good side, the bright side, are going to rule, are going to direct, are going to guide over the negative tendencies of consciousness. And then the kingdom will be the Lord's. The kingdom is the purpose, the plan, the situation, the outcome. Is that the will of God is the one that is going to rule. The kingdom would be the Lord's, God's, the Creator. That the Creator plans is going to take place at that point. It's a prophecy. So we're basically making echo of what we wrote in the blog. So the story basically goes that before they met, Jacob went to the camp and then found this man who actually was an angel. And then the fight extended throughout the night. So then Jacob prevailed and prevails. And then he asked the angel, before the angel is going to leave, bless me. And then he said, your name isn't going to be Jacob anymore. Your name is going to be Israel. Because Israel fought and prevailed. So this is not just a commandment, but a, so to speak, forecast, foretelling of what the future is going to be. This is how we have to understand it. In spite of that, this is very, very interesting. After knowing that Jacob won that fight, prevailed, instead of being more secure about himself, knowing that the angel of God blessed him and gave him a new name ordered by God, Jacob is still afraid of his brother. This is quite interesting. So the Torah says, we read he bent 7 times. Or the 7 times that he called my Lord to his brother Esau and bent to him and said, I'm your servant. Represent the 7 different kingdoms that oppressed Israel in the future times after this. So the last one was Rome. So before that, the Assyrians, the Greeks, the Babylonians, and others. So it's interesting about this approach because it sounds like, still, why, if Jacob is backed, so to speak, by God, God is with him. it sounds that we are like judging him. It's like it could be some kind of unaware. I mean, a person who is so intelligent, so bright, so full of goodness, why would he feel, why would he do that? That we have to analyze this very, very carefully. Because we can judge him for that. It's like if somebody tells me, God tell me or tell us, I am with you guys. We are fearless. Even if we see danger, immediate danger, we know, we trust God. It's like, why Jacob didn't do that? Why he reacted the way he did? Again, the answer is, first, we're humans, we're not perfect. Even if we are full of goodness and good intentions. And goodness is our identity and our destiny and our purpose and our goal and what we think, what we feel, what we speak and what we do. Then, if we are afraid of our dark side, it's because it's there all the time. It's like our goodness is not enough to prevail. There's something there. It's like this one day in which I feel more wanting to do this thing that is not going to necessarily create well-being around me. So something's gonna lose if I do this. It's like why is this tendency, this trend in my consciousness to do this thing? Why this addiction? Why this attachment? Why this obsession? Why these desires? And then we have to deal with that. So the idea is we appease them. It's not natural. It's a human thing to do when we are afraid of something. It's like we'd rather appease them. I don't want to have enemies. I'd rather give them what they want. But the problem is that these enemies don't stop asking. They want more and more and more. That's exactly what's happening now with Israel. The so-called nations, our neighbor, they have a lot of land. If you see the map, Israel is tiny, tiny, and everything around is Muslim. And they want the little part. Why don't you get more from other places? More South in Africa, wherever they do, expanding. Why this little tiny piece of land? They always want more and more until they want our destruction, as they say publicly and openly. They don't want us here. They want to rule, to impose the rule of wickedness, darkness, suffering, stupidity, futility, nonsense, uselessness, unproductiveness. That's what they want. That's all the purpose of all fascist and totalitarian ideologies. To impose their goal, their purpose. So we cannot appease these people. We have to destroy them too. If they want to destroy us, it's either them or us, as we have said before. It's like, why someone wants to destroy me, I have to keep shut. And this person is telling me openly that he's going to kill me and my family and he's going to take over what I have. What is mine? Then I have the legitimate right to defend myself, defend my family, defend my state, my possessions against anything, anybody. So nobody says anything when our enemies say that they want to destroy us, to wipe us out of the map. Like that, literally. And we cannot say the same about them. I don't know why. Can somebody tell me that? If somebody's gonna go to my house and take everything I have, I'm gonna kill me and take my house. Me, my family, and everything I have. Nobody around is doing anything. Nobody's taking sides with me. Nobody is advocating or defending me about what's going on. Nobody. So why should I do? Because nobody saying anything, I'm gonna you just kill me and take everything. No, of course not. We just not just reject them. We have to destroy them because they want to destroy us. Either them of us. It happens in every situation. And the 19th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution is the right to possess arms, to protect your household. So it's like, I'm in my household, I have the right to have a gun. If somebody wants to trespass in my property, I have the full right to kill that person. And I haven't committed any crime. I have been defending myself and I am covered by this amendment. They don't even arrest me. Nothing. They don't file anything. It's like you are exercising your constitutional right to defend yourself, your family, and your possessions. We're talking about a civilized country, a country that says that it's civilized. So like if they do that, they have it in the Constitution, why can't we? That doesn't mean that we have to adopt the American Constitution in Israel. We're not saying that. But the point, you know what the point is. We have to exercise the same right. Exactly the same. The right to defend ourselves from our enemies. And if they want war and they want to destruct us, we are going to do exactly the same. There's no reason not to. That's the rules of the game. It's either you and I, or I. And then we act consequently, accordingly. It's very simple. It's like some people complain that Israel doesn't allow some people, Nobel Prize winners and important international figures, when they come to Ben Gurion Airport, Israel has the right to reject them. All the international community says, how is this possible? This is a Nobel Prize winner. You know how? These people are against us. Why should we allow an enemy of our state, somebody who advocates our destruction, who is friends with our enemies, to step into our house? No. We have full right to do that. So then they don't enter. They take this next flight back home from where they came and end of the story. That's what we have to do. And that's what we're doing. And that's what we will do. We have no choice. More than 3,000 years of history have taught us the lesson that that's the way it is. We don't need 6 more million people dead in order to exercise our right to exist. We have to make that clear. So in this case, we have to object our patriarch Jacob, Israel, attitude with his brother, his nemesis, his killer, his destroyer. It's completely unacceptable. It is. Now, in a deeper level, again, our mystic sages trying to explain this attitude, this behavior of Jacob. He wasn't ready to destroy his enemy. He wasn't. So he said, I'm not ready. My sons are little. They're still little ones. So they're not ready to face the enemy. They have to grow. They have to get strong. That's the explanation that we have in our Hasidic tradition and mystic tradition. So we have to get ready. But if we see history, that getting ready has taken millions of lives, countless persecutions. It's too much. It's too much. We cannot deal with that kind of situation anymore. Not then, not now. We just can't. We cannot allow luxury of appeasing our enemies throughout history. Not anymore. So we have our country, we are armed up to the teeth, we say in some Spanish-speaking countries, very well armed enough. Maybe it's not enough what we have, in order to defend ourselves and destroy our enemies. Why now? We're waiting more than 6 million people 65 years ago. We shouldn't allow that. We shouldn't have allowed that to happen. But then it happened. And then we say never again. And indeed, it will be never again like that anymore. So the lesson here in this parasha is that we have to face our enemies, either if they are in our consciousness or outside, out there. Face them and destroy them. It's either them or us. Or get the agreement, get the accord to work together towards the same purpose. What is called here God's will. It's a disappointing which all the negative things, all our enemies that want to destroy is going to say, it's not the way it is. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Now we're going to take a different approach. We finally have realized how stupid we have been throughout history, living in these fantasies, mirages and illusions of egos, eagerness, thirst, hunger. To fulfill the negative desires. It's like disappointing in which we have to get to that moment in consciousness when we say, either it's white or black, either it's bright or dark, and we have to make the choice. And it's a radical choice. There's no grace, there is no appeasement here. No, we have to live and die by and for what we believe. We are. It's not enough to say we believe in this. This belief is us. This is what we are. It's our identity. Then we go with it, regardless the circumstances, regardless the outcome. Because God's will. That's our identity. So the Torah is our identity. We act accordingly. So, then the other negative situations that happen later, we don't want to extend the commentary, but it's interesting because the children of Jacob later learn about this. And then when they have the episode of Shechem, when Dinah, the only daughter of Jacob, was raped by Shechem, the children acted accordingly. They destroyed the enemy in their totality. So the children learned the lesson. The father probably didn't, but the children did. And they feared us, says the Torah. All the peoples around Canaan in those areas, when they saw that Israel killed all the people in Shechem, they respected us. They feared us. There was no retaliation from anybody because God is with us. So then the lesson also here that for Jacob is like, if God is with us, and He has promised to be with us, and He has told, He has blessed us with His companionship, we have to act accordingly, as the children Shimon and Levi did. And we should never forget that. So then the parasha, I'm going to read a little bit of the end before going. talking about the descendants of Edom. So you say, why the Parshat is ending mentioning the descendants of Edom? Because this is precisely what we're going to face. So like everything that happened is, these people are going to have descendants, be aware. And these descendants are going to be your enemies. These descendants will try to destroy you, pay attention. So it ends that way. He is Esau, father of Edom. That's the end of the portion. So after that we read next week Parshat Vayishlach. So chronicles about the offsprings and the generations of Jacob. So we start the four last portions of the book of Genesis. The central character will be Joseph, not Jacob anymore. So we will talk about these particular facets of our consciousness. We have said that every place, every name, every situation in the Torah represents something in our consciousness. That's how we try to understand these portions when we have these commentaries. So next week we want to see what Joseph represents in our consciousness and his brothers and the story that happened afterwards, with which the book of Genesis ends. So until then, I wish you an abundantly blessed week, a peaceful and inspiring Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom, and see you next week.